To the story that's dominated the news this week about how radical the ACT Labor government's become since Andrew Barr was elected Chief Minister, 10 years ago? Well, they'll now move on euthanasia. Well, fair enough, it's happening right around the country. But it will include people as young as 14 years of age who are not necessarily in imminent danger of death. Now, in response to the legislation, the Sydney Archbishop Anthony Fisher said it would lead the nation down the path of a slippery slope. He said that Victoria has only had euthanasia for about a year or two, and they're already talking about removing most of the protections. That's right, the Archbishop is correct there. Well, he says if the ACT starts with almost no protections, where are they going to be in 2 or 3 years' time? My guess, he says, is that it will be euthanasia on demand for anyone that wants it. Joining me now to discuss this, Sky News contributors Prue MacSween, Tina McQueen, my two ladies tonight. Prue, I'll start with you. This makes me very, very uncomfortable, given there's no longer really a terminal definition and it involves young people. What do you think?
Oh, I agree 100% with you, Peter. This is so dangerous. Look, we know, 14-year-olds, people under 16, they go through highs and lows. Life is tough for them. We know that through puberty. But to allow them to make decisions that we don't believe they have the maturity to determine, I just think is so wrong. And in this case, there's no coming back. I just think that we need to really take a step back. I'm a pro-euthanasia person, but only under certain very strict terms. And I just think that when you've got people trying, like the ACT government, who we know are just such a bunch of greenies that, want to recruit. And this is all part of the campaign, I believe, to recruit young people, even though it sounds bizarre when you're talking about euthanasia. But this liberating sort of attitude that they have, I just think it's so wrong. And I agree with Archbishop Fisher that we've got to stand up against this. It's terrible.
Tina, one of the concerns I have, and I watch what's happening around the world with this issue, they start out with a really robust scheme and 2 doctors and personal contact with the patient, and then and older Australians usually, or older people around the world, and then it just gets eroded over time. And you look at the Netherlands, where they have young people who do not actually need to have a terminal illness; they could be just profoundly depressed or other conditions as well. I guess the concern you have, if this becomes the new model, if this is how we value human life, they won't fund palliative care. There'll be pressure on older Australians to just, drop off, take the jab, make it easier on your family and disappear. And that is what worries me.
Yeah, the give up mentality, Peter. It's awful. And I can't believe that, where are the Canberra Liberals on this? I mean, they have to push back. Too often, particularly in Canberra, the opposition down there will sort of half agree, a little bit, oh, I'm okay, but no, they've got to come out swinging. I mean, 14 years old, it's just ridiculous. And as Archbishop Fisher said, it's a slippery slope, and we shouldn't even be having this discussion around 14-year-olds. It's ludicrous.
No. Right, listen to this. Taxpayers, I hope this surprises you at home, because I find it shocking. I thought it was about $6 billion. It certainly was in my day. But taxpayers, you're shelling out almost $11 billion a year to subsidise childcare. Now, from tomorrow, that bill's going to clock $13 billion. And it's not just people on modest incomes that we're subsidising. Under Labor, if you're a household and your income's around $500,000, you'll still get subsidised childcare, right up to about 90% of the amount that you charge from the centre. And the centre knows that they've got you over a barrel. The government's going to keep throwing money at childcare. Reports today that a Melbourne childcare centre, they're slugging parents $47,000 a year for littlies in childcare. That's more than what you pay to send your kid to Geelong Grammar. It's $46,000 a year. Now, Prue, there is a rort going on here with a lot of these centres. We know that the workforce is unionised. That's part of the incentive for Labor. How about we give the parents the money? Give the parents the money. They can decide that mum might give up her part-time job and use that to help stay at home and pay the mortgage. Or they might hire in a nanny or a grandparent or someone to look after the kids. Or if they want, take that money and put the child into formal unionised childcare. But how about we let the parents decide?
Well, that would be nice, wouldn't it? You know, it's just obscene that you have the Labor Party even countenancing, subsidising people who are bringing home $500,000 with our money. And then, of course, you have the other side of the equation, as you say, where it's not going to mean jack you know what, because frankly, the childcare agencies put the costs up, so it doesn't go anywhere. And then you've got the demands of the union labour force going up, as we know. So your formula is the sensible way to go. Let the parents decide. And we have to say that there are a lot of, look at the older people who are forced to retire, people who've raised their children who'd love to be able to raise young children. So I just think, you know, you're right. If we could let grandparents or other seniors or neighbours be subsidised and step into this role, it's the best way to go.
Peta, it's not just that. It's some women who choose to stay home with the kids who want to and are lucky enough to be in a financial position to do that are treated as less than, as if they're at a lower level of society because they don't want to make their children to go to some school from birth practically. So yes, there needs to be another solution. It's ridiculous, and big income people should not be getting the same breaks as those that with a less income.
It's crazy.
And $47,000 for a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old in childcare is not much different than what we're paying a pensioner. I just absolutely find it extraordinary, because beyond the childcare, of course, there's all the family payments and the subsidies to the family household. Beyond just the childcare payment, the poor old pensioner gets one bit of money from the taxpayer, having paid taxes all their life, and we know they're struggling. Let's go to this issue in New Zealand. Very soon, all of their signs, road signs, are going to be in both Maori and English. It's being pushed. We know that in Brisbane they're changing the name of Fraser Island and other things. But Prue, what do you think of this?
Well, it's to be expected in New Zealand. I'm surprised it's taken this long for them to do that. Look, this is what happens when you yield to and bend over backwards to accommodate the Indigenous communities. That, you know, everything that we understand and know, and it's happening here, as you say. You know, Palaszczuk wants to change the name of Brisbane before the Olympic Games. So suddenly it ain't going to be the Brisbane Olympics, it's Mendula or something that none of us know. We're all going to have to learn a new language.
And I've got no idea what Fraser Island's
right? No, exactly. None of us do. And in fact, I heard of some bloke who was getting on a plane and they had an Indigenous name up on the board, and he said, "I just want to go to Alice Springs. Where the hell are you taking me?" So it's just so stupid, but this is the problem, and this is what we're going to face in this country if the yes vote gets up.
But Peter, I was in New Zealand last year, and no one knew where the hell they were or where the hell they were going. You know, if it's just the Maori name, you know, you've got to sort of look at both sets of names to see where you've been and where you're heading to. It's nuts.
And I have to say, none of this stuff ever goes to a vote. It happens by stealth. Tina McQueen, Prue MacSween. Have a lovely weekend, ladies. See you next week.